August 1st, 2022, a 19-year-old seaman recruit on board the guided missile destroyer USS Arleigh Burke vanished into the cold waters of the Baltic Sea. The clock started ticking immediately because in situations like this, every second means the difference between life and death. What happened from that moment till the time he was never found reveals the incredible rescue process the U.S. Navy has perfected over decades and the harsh reality of what sailors face when they fall off a U.S. destroyer in the middle of the ocean. Sailor lost overboard on USS Arleigh Burke. On a routine summer day in the Baltic Sea on August 1st, 2022, a young sailor's life changed in an instant. Seaman recruit David Spearman, just 19 years old and fresh from training, was serving aboard the guided missile destroyer USS Arleigh Burke when he vanished into the cold gray waters below. As the powerful warship cut through the sea, the crew was going about their duties, unaware that in a matter of moments they would be locked in a desperate struggle against time and search the ocean to save one of their own. It wasn't until a lookout noticed him in the water that the crew realized something was gravely wrong. In the distance, he could see Spearman, a small figure vulnerable against the sprawling sea. The ship immediately executed its man-overboard procedures, a complex sequence drilled into sailors to respond to this nightmare scenario. Life rings and smoke floats were thrown into the water to mark his position as the crew sounded alarms and called for help. Despite the swift reaction, the sea remained merciless. Spearman was fighting the icy waters for at least 10 minutes, but it wasn't enough. The search efforts intensified. They lowered a rigid-hulled inflatable boat, rescue swimmers entered the water, and the Allied assets joined the effort, yet it was difficult to locate the figure in the open water. Miscommunication and rough conditions hampered the rescue, and even as rescuers closed in, the moment slipped away. In the end, no trace of Spearman was found. His body was never recovered, and the Navy eventually ended the search operations, declaring him lost. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the fleet, but this isn't the only time a U.S. sailor fell off a destroyer, triggering the man-overboard response. Before we cover the devastating story of the other sailor who fell off a U.S. destroyer, don't hesitate to hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel for all the interesting parts of the U.S. military, from the latest weapons and vessels to news and history. Sailor missing on USS Mason. On March 20th, 2024, the steady rhythm of life aboard the guided missile destroyer USS Mason was shattered by an unthinkable tragedy. Aviation machinist's mate, second-class Oriola Michael Aregbesola, a 34-year-old petty officer assigned to the Swamp Foxes of Helicopter Maritime Strike Squadron 74, was serving aboard the Mason. In a moment that would shock many on the ship, Aregbesola fell overboard into the vast, unforgiving ocean. This disappearance quickly turned into a frantic race against time and the forces of nature. The alarm spread through the Mason like wildfire. Sailors abandoned their tasks and rushed to the rails looking for their shipmates. Rescue protocols sprang into action. Helicopters were launched, small boats cut through the swells, and Allied assets in the area joined the desperate search. The destroyer, part of the Dwight D. Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group operating with the U.S. Fifth Fleet, poured every resource into finding Aregbesola alive. For hours, they combed the sea, but the Red Sea offered no mercy. Despite the crew's skill and determination, no trace of Aregbesola could be found. With heavy hearts and grim resolve, the Navy eventually concluded the search and declared him lost at sea. In the sobering aftermath, Commander Eric Kohut of HSM 74 honored Aregbesola's service, praising his selfless character and warrior spirit. But whether it was Burke or Aregbesola, immediately a sailor falls off a U.S. destroyer, they trigger the man-overboard response and start to look for them. Immediate man-overboard response. When a sailor suddenly disappears over the rail into the open ocean, the seconds that follow are the most intense any crew will face at sea. The moment someone is seen falling into the water, trained eyes and ears spring into action. A lookout or nearby sailor shouts the unmistakable command, "Man overboard, starboard port side." And that shout ripples through the destroyer like a starter's pistol. Every sailor on deck and below hears it, and the bridge instantly knows exactly where the tragedy occurred. This clear call starts a sequence of actions that the U.S. Navy has honed over decades of drills and real emergencies. The priority is marking the spot before the forward motion of the ship carries it miles away. They launch flotation devices like life rings, smoke floats with dense orange plumes, or other buoyant markers into the sea to help the person in the water and give rescuers a visual point to return to. This was exactly what happened aboard the USS Arleigh Burke in the Baltic Sea in 2022, when sailors threw life rings and a smoke float, as soon as seaman recruit David Spearman was spotted struggling in the waves. With the scene marked, the bridge orders the ship to execute a man overboard maneuver. Unlike the steady course a destroyer usually holds, the helm is suddenly pushed hard toward the side where the sailor fell. One of the classic maneuvers used is the Williamson turn, where the ship swings off its original heading and then brings itself back onto the reciprocal track, right over the point the crew member entered the water, all while keeping all the powerful propellers away from the victim in the water. At the same time, the ship's general alarm rings out and radio traffic bursts to life, broadcasting the emergency and alerting nearby vessels or aircraft that a rescue is underway. Every sailor who hears the alarm knows to rush to their station to save a life. When the alarm echoes across the deck of a destroyer, every sailor knows that the clock has started and they have a limited time to rescue their fellow soldier. But even with those split-second actions and decades of training behind them, the ocean can be cruel. So, what happens after a destroyer has marked the spot and turned back toward the person in the water? That's where the search and rescue efforts begin. Search and rescue efforts. Once a destroyer completes its man overboard turn and slows into the spot where a sailor was last seen, the search and rescue effort begins. This is a desperate, high-stakes hunt against time in the vast, shifting sea. On a warship at sea, every available eye scans the water relentlessly, while powerful machines like helicopters and small boats are called into action to reach the victim before the ocean can claim them for good. In ideal cases, this is where the Navy's training and technology comes in. From a destroyer's deck, aircraft such as the MH-60 Seahawk are often launched within minutes. These helicopters, operated by squadrons like the Helicopter Maritime Strike Units aboard many destroyers and carriers, are built for the demanding sea environment and equipped to extend the ship's reach far beyond the wake of its hull. Whether hovering low over rolling waves or circling wide search patterns, the rescue swimmers and highly trained aircrew will comb the ocean for any sign of life. If they are lucky, the Seahawk aircraft can locate and lift the distressed mariners from the water, hoisting them aboard by rescue basket and bringing them into safety aboard the ship for medical care. Meanwhile, rigid-hulled inflatable boats can be lowered from the destroyer's side or from nearby companion ships. These smaller, fast-moving craft are manned by sailors who have been trained for recovery missions, and they charge into the challenging seas to physically retrieve a person in the water. They work with the helicopters and the crew's visual search, covering the sea from multiple angles and with a sense of urgency, knowing that someone out there needs help. Throughout the effort, the rescue mission remains coordinated with all available assets. Shipboard lookouts, radar and optical sensors, aerial surveillance and communication with nearby vessels or aircraft all coordinate together to find the lost sailor before the ocean swallows him up. But as technology advances, looking for sailors who have fallen over a destroyer has become even easier. If you find this interesting, don't hesitate to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We cover all you need to know about the U.S. military, from the latest weapons and aircraft to impressive vessels like the destroyer and aircraft carrier. Advanced technology and sensors. When a sailor goes overboard, the hours that follow involve urgency, precision, and technology. Today, U.S. Navy destroyers and their support aircraft carry far more than seafarers and weapons, but also specialized sensors and systems that are designed to detect, alert, and aid rescuers in tracking down a person in the water. For years, naval engineers and safety planners have worked to shrink the window between a fall and a confirmed man overboard alert, because the sooner the rescue effort begins, the better the odds for survival. Among these systems is the Man Overboard Indicator, which is designed to activate the moment a sailor hits the water, triggering a transmitter on their vest to send a signal back to the ship's bridge that someone has gone overboard and pinpoint their position. This kind of automatic alert dramatically speeds up response time, reducing the confusion and delay that traditionally come with spotting a fall only after the fact. Beyond onboard alarms, maritime search operations benefit from satellite-linked locators such as emergency position indicating beacons, which broadcast distress signals detectable from space through international rescue satellites. This is part of systems like COSPAS SARSAT that alert rescue coordinators to a distressed person's coordinates. Aircraft and ship sensors also play a vital role once the search starts. Modern naval helicopters carry advanced search radars and cameras capable of detecting small targets on the ocean's surface in rough conditions. The systems developed for maritime domain awareness can help focus the search grid faster. Still, even as technology evolves, the ocean remains brutally unforgiving. Water temperature and exposure can quickly dominate survival outcomes. In cold seas, a sailor's body can succumb to hypothermia in minutes. Exhaustion can set in quickly, and waves hide signs of life even from the most sophisticated sensors. Even with all the protocols and technology used in rescuing sailors when they go overboard a destroyer, it's not easy to survive. Time and survival factors. Even with the fastest man-overboard response imaginable, survival in the open ocean is an unforgiving battle against time and the elements. As soon as the sailor hits the water, it's a race against the relentless forces of nature itself. In every direction, the sea tests visibility, wave height, wind and weather, and perhaps most crucially, water temperature, which drains body heat far faster than air ever could. For sailors who have fallen overboard, visibility can vanish in an instant. It might be too hazy or foggy, or the rolling seas create a shifting, white-capped surface. At night, it's even harder because darkness can cloak the waves completely, making it impossible to spot someone struggling in the water, even when the ship and rescue helicopters circle overhead. In stormy seas, there are more challenges, like towering swells, splashing spray, and erratic currents quickly mask any signs of life. Even the most sophisticated sensors in aircraft have limits when the ocean itself becomes a blur of moving shadows. And then there's the cold. Water steals heat from the human body 25 times faster than air at the same temperature, leaving even the strongest swimmer vulnerable to hypothermia within minutes. In cooler seas, such as those in the North Atlantic or Baltic, the average sailor wearing a life jacket might only have an hour or two of survival time before muscle coordination collapses and they lose their consciousness. Battling ocean conditions, fatigue, exhaustion, and low body heat, a person in the water can easily feel hopeless. Despite the protocols, with helicopters overhead and boats searching relentlessly, the unforgiving nature of the sea can dictate the final outcome. But what happens if the person is found, or if they aren't? If the person is found or not found? When a helicopter crew spots a splash or a small boat crew catches sight of a life jacket in the waves, this moment has relief, hope, and urgency. In the best-case scenario, the sailor is located alive before the unforgiving sea can claim them. A rescue helicopter, often an MH-60 Seahawk, hovers over the spot, its rotors whipping spray in every direction as trained rescue swimmers slip into the water. With practiced precision, they guide the sailor into a rescue basket, hoisting them up into the waiting aircraft. Then, whether lifted aboard a ship or flown ashore, the sailor receives immediate medical evaluation and care. In some cases, individuals are stabilized on board before being transported to a hospital on land for further care, each moment still urgent but now tinged with the relief of survival. But it's not always good news. When a sailor can't be found after exhaustive search and rescue efforts, their mood shifts from hope to realism. Naval assets, alongside Coast Guard aircraft and ships when available, will search tirelessly, covering tens of thousands of square miles of water, but their persistence cannot always overcome the sea's enormity. When a search is called off, it does not end the human cost. The ship's commanding officers notify the sailor's next of kin with deep solemnity, offer support, and begin investigations into the circumstances that led to the overboard incident. But here's the twist. You might think a sailor going overboard is a once-in-a-blue-moon event, but in fact, man-overboard incidents aren't nearly as rare as most people assume. So, if sailors can go overboard with shocking frequency, even among highly trained crews, how does the Navy learn from these events and try to prevent them from happening again? Man-overboard incidents happen more often. Even though it grabs headlines when a sailor disappears from a destroyer like USS Arleigh or USS Mason, the hard truth is that man-overboard incidents happen more often across the U.S. Navy than most people realize. According to official Safety Command data, the Navy recorded 82 accidental man-overboard events over the past 13 years, with several resulting in deaths, including the tragic loss of spearmen from Arleigh Burke. Destroyers might not have decks as large as the aircraft carriers. They are relatively smaller warships where sailors work in all kinds of weather, often close to open railings while conducting maintenance or operations. Slipping, losing balance, or fainting can all send someone into the sea, especially when decks are slick from spray or sudden rolls pitch the ship unpredictably. Even when the man overboard call is sounded, the window for rescue closes quickly. Once the ship has maneuvered back toward the fall point, rescue boats may still take about 10 minutes to launch, and locating a person in the water, especially in dark clothing against shifting waves, is difficult. Devastating cases like these remind us that the sea's hazards are constant and unforgiving, even for trained crews aboard advanced warships. Now you know what happens when U.S. sailors fall off a destroyer in the middle of the sea. This is one of the most hazardous accidents that can occur on a destroyer, and the Navy continues to work diligently to prevent such incidents. Have you heard any tragic stories of sailors falling overboard? Please share them in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights into the U.S. military. We'll see you in the next video.